So, hey everybody, and welcome to the Wiregrass Grown Podcast. I'm Micah Johnson, the Houston County Extension Director, here with Aaron Wells, our Regional Extension Agent in Agronomic Crops. This Wiregrass Grown Podcast is where we highlight local producers who grow, raise, and create the good food we enjoy right here. Each episode, we'll sit down with different people in the world of agriculture to hear their stories, insights, maybe crack a few jokes and learn what it really takes to bring fresh food from the farm to your table. So whether you're listening from the tractor, your kitchen, or on the road, just pull up a chair and join us as we celebrate the people and our producers that bring the passion behind local agriculture. And we hope you get some information and helpful information and take it with you. Aaron, this is our first run. You excited?
I am. I've done a few podcasts for some other groups within Extension, and I've always enjoyed them, and looking forward to this one today.
Yep. So the platform here is the new website, Wiregrass Grown. The idea from this website is just really was to push farm-to-table concept. We have good growers around here who grow who are really good at what they do. And we love to see our products stay local as well as be bought wherever it can be sold. This is your wheelhouse. You farmed. You've been in the world of extension as an extension agent. A lot of experience in the row crop world. Just give us an idea about our growers. What comes to mind when you hear a wiregrass grower or a producer? Because we're talking, it's not just growing crops; it's also livestock, poultry. Any local wiregrass producer, what comes to mind?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is when we really think about farmers in the wiregrass, that's going to be a runner-wide gamut of different operations, and not all operations are the same, obviously. A lot of our operations, farming operations, are mixes of both row crops or some kind of vegetable crops and livestock as well. In our area, primarily beef cattle and poultry are our two big livestock industries. You know, we do have a few other species floating around, if you will, whether it be goats or a few sheep, things like that. And as most everybody knows, in our area, peanuts are king as far as row cropping goes. Cotton has been, primarily our secondary crop here behind peanuts. It was the primary crop for several years, and then the boll weevil came in and kind of wiped that out, and peanuts took over. We do grow a good bit of corn and some small grains in the wintertime, and some other things, other grains like grain sorghum, and then this year we've seen an uptick in soybeans in the area as well. So that kind of runs the gamut on our row crop side, but we do have quite a bit of vegetables produced in the area, fruits and vegetables as well. I think from a historical standpoint, you get around that Cottonwood and North Jackson County area, that there's historically a lot of watermelons grown in that area down that way, and still are some produce down that area. And we've got a couple of other growers around that specialize in specific vegetables, but we do have a lot of people who, if you want to call them the roadside stand guys, they grow a wide variety, a wide array of different vegetables and fruits that you would typically find at a roadside stand. So, you can't really paint a farmer in the southeast part of the state or in this wiregrass region. You can't really paint a broad stroke and just say all farmers in this area are this, right? Because it's just a wide array of different livestock and crops and things like that. So,
and I think that's just a testament to the lifestyle of this area, this region. I mean, you either grew up on a farm or grew up next to a farmer, or someone knows a farmer or a producer or a grower, and produce stands and cattle and row crops. It's just a part of life here. We're sitting here in downtown Dothan, and you can drive 5 miles in either direction and you can see a peanut field, or you can see the cotton starting to flower. You can, it's just almost in our DNA in this part of the area. And you got growers, you got people, even if they're not involved in growing, they're connected somehow to the agriculture in this area.
Yeah, and like from where we sit right here, probably within really about a 5 or 6 block radius of where we sit right here in downtown Dothan. It wasn't that long ago that the Dothan oil mill was down here. There was a fertilizer plant down here. Now, those lots or those areas sit vacant, but Dothan itself has always been a very agriculturally focused area. There was a lot of industry in Dothan. Covington planters used to be made here in Dothan. Over out on Old Headland Highway, the old World War II POW camp. It was later equipment manufacturing facility. So the town of Dothan has always been kind of the business hub for the agriculture community right around in this area. And even today, if you look as far as where folks have to come to get tractor and equipment supplies and parts and service and things like that, Dothan is kind of our hub for the region right here.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I mean, you can go in any direction, and when we talk wiregrass, Dothan's kind of seen as the hub, but it's the wiregrass. You go north to Henry County, Barber County, you go west to Geneva County or Dale County, and even our friends across the state lines in Jackson County or Seminole County or Early County. I mean, we talk about towns and counties, but agriculture really doesn't stop at city lines or county lines. I mean, we're trying to make a living doing this. We're all in it together. Whether it's farm or fiber, food or fiber, we're trying to use our resources to get something out of it. And and we even just started talking about timber either. Timber's also around, and we have a lot of interest in the timber in this part of the state. And I think actually timber is one of the leading industries in the state of Alabama.
It possibly is the number one. I'm not sure. I think it is the number one. Don't quote me on that. Right. Either that or beef cattle or poultry. One of those three is the top for the state. But another thing we didn't mention also is agrotourism. Obviously, as the Dothan population grows, we probably are looking at more of a shift from an agricultural-based economy here. Obviously, the medical side of things is very important to the city of Dothan. But with that, with the increasing population, we do see a lot of people who are not connected to the farm or maybe didn't grow up on the farm have interest in it, and they're looking for ways that they can become engaged with agriculture itself. And so that's kind of where we're seeing this bloom of agrotourism kind of taking off right here, right outside of Dothan.
Yeah, so I had a little personal experience in agritourism when I was a teenager. So I'm not from the area originally. I'm from Russell County, and we had a Christmas tree farm.
Okay.
All right, 80 acres of Christmas trees, and that was just normal life to us. We grew up in that rural area of Crawford, Alabama, and this family opened a tree farm, and these people would come out there and ride the tractor out into the trees, and we gave them a saw. They would ride this tractor out in the wagons and go cut these trees down. And our job, we were just seasonal help, so we would go load the trees up back on the wagons and go shake the trees for them. And like I said, just life for us. But these people wanted that rural connection. Yeah. They wanted to come out and they wanted to cut a tree down. They wanted to smell the trees, and they wanted to get the fresh air. And I think that's just another part of us. But that's something that we grew up in, kind of like you. It was life. That was just everyday life, and we knew what fresh air was like, and we knew what tractors were like. But people just, I think it's just built in their DNA to be connected to, whether it's just nature or just a crop or something growing. But the agritourism has really caught a lot of traction here lately. I guess people just want to get back to their roots or feel connected somehow to whatever's being grown or the lifestyle that they came from generations ago. But yeah, that's a good point. We're seeing a lot of that. You don't have to go far from here to find different agritourist spots. And I think people just like to get connected back to where they came from.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say that your family was the ones going on the agritourism, and I thought, I didn't know if your dad was like Clark Griswold or something like that. And the family what do you call it? The family sled, going to
the old
look for a
family
Christmas
sleigh.
tree. Yeah, the family sleigh.
No,
So,
we didn't. I grew up where I grew up. You had to take a dirt road to get to the dirt road that I lived on. So I was very well in tune with with being outside, and that's just how we grew up, sunshine and tap water.
I thought you said you grew up in Russell County, not Geneva County.
It's very similar. A lot of small rural Southern life, and grew up and bounced around from my uncle's farms, helping them with their hay and cattle, to Christmas tree farms during seasonal help, and just part of life. And that's just how a lot of us grew up. But we are, as things change and as you grow, you sometimes drift away from it, but find yourself drifting back to it. Some people never leave the farm, and those people have a tremendous amount of respect from a lot of us. And I think, you when you look at what's going on around in general with the advancements in technology and the advancements in machinery, there's still something I think we appreciate and respect about the guys that drop the seed and pull a crop, or bring the cattle in, and I'm proud to be from this area.
Oh, for sure. And talking about the respect for people, I have a greater respect since I began farming on my own, or really started in 2005. My family farmed, and then they kind of got out of production agriculture and got into the equipment business. And I started farming in 2005 just on some family land. And I remember out there in the field, starting out, you don't have much equipment. You can't spend a whole lot of money on equipment. I had this little 12-foot disc and going back and forth in this 60-acre field, and I thought, man, this is taking forever. But then I got to thinking about, my generations, one or two generations ahead of me that walked behind that mule, breaking a 16-inch slice at a time. I've heard stories, and my granddaddy say, because it obviously breaking land with a mule took a long time. And so they had to get started early on. And I've heard my granddaddy tell stories, and other older generations tell stories of like breaking land during the wintertime, because you had to start then to get it done where you could be ready to plant in the spring. But the ground being so cold, but during the wintertime they would break land barefooted, because the ground was actually warmer, that 6 or 8 inches deeper where they were plowing, turning that soil up. And it really made me think about that generation. Truthfully now, I'm not saying farming is an easy life, because it's a life a lot of people would like to have. Don't get me wrong, but back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, it was an extremely difficult life, and
Sure.
I can completely understand. Like, part of my family, they were tenant farmers, they were sharecroppers around Taylor, and when the Depression hit, most of their family packed up and they moved to Phoenix City to go work. And they called it, is it Bibb City? I know you're from that.
Yep.
Is there a community up there called Bibb City?
Yes.
So they moved to Bibb City and went to work in a textiles mill up there. So I could see why, my little 12-foot disc at the time, and then thinking about those guys who were walking barefooted in the wintertime behind a mule all day, I could see why they would want to give up and try to find something better for themselves. A lot of the problems that agriculture faced then, agriculture faces now. They're just packaged a little bit differently. Obviously, everyone involved in agriculture wants to provide for their family and have a decent life, just like they did back then.
Right.
Some aspects of it are a little easier now. Obviously, we have, like you said, the technology and the equipment. It's not as labor intense as it used to be. Air conditioners, as long as they're working in a tractor, they're very nice.
Yep.
kind of keep us out of the elements and things like that. But there's still issues that folks in agriculture face every day, just like any other business. But yeah, that generation, the generations that came before us, they paid a pretty heavy price to keep agriculture going in this area.
For sure, the foundation they continued from their grandparents and parents, then passed along. That generation for sure was. There's a reason they're called the greatest generation.
Yeah.
My dad's dad was from Louisville, and he grew up on a farm and got drafted. And he passed before I was born, but Daddy always talked about how he said when he left the farm and went to war, he said it was nice on that big Navy ship. He had 3 hots and a cot, and he said until the fighting started, and he's like, this isn't too bad at all. he could sleep in when he after he got drafted. But yeah, for sure that generation has if we really can't fathom kind of what they've had to go through, and but also a nod to our current farmers, our current producers. I mean, they've taken the torch and they're carrying it, and they're trying to find better ways to grow and be more efficient and increase yield. And that's where so I guess that's where we'll start. We'll start talking about kind of what we're facing today, what current trends we're seeing. We'll start specifically with the growing season so far this year. When you look at planting dates in the spring, we're going to probably focus mostly on row crops, corn, cotton, peanuts for this talk. And looking at planting dates, every year coming out of winter, you can't say I'm going to plant on this date every year. I mean, it's got to. You're looking at soil temperature, you're looking at weather patterns. And I know 2 years ago we had a late planting date because we came out of a very cold winter, and so the soil wasn't quite ready until later in May. I think it's a couple of years ago. And then last year I remember there was we started planting, and then we got a lot of rain for a while, so that paused planting, and then we picked back up. But this current year planting, I think, went okay. Correct?
Yeah, we had for a short period of time, we had the most snow I've ever seen in my 47 years in this area. And I would say probably, I don't know what the record books show, but we did have some cold winter this year. But for the most part, everything kind of warmed up. Planting season was pretty good. We didn't get too far behind. There was probably a few days in there, but that's kind of typical to be expected. So for the most part, planting season went fairly well this year. But then it kind of turned off a little dry right after planting season. And that didn't last too terribly long, though. It might have affected crops a little bit. Typically at the beginning of the season is when we're not in a huge demand for water at that point. For cotton and peanuts especially, I'd say the last week or two of July and the month of August, that's really our typical, like when we really need the water. That's when the crop's putting on the fruit. And after that, it kind of tapers off. For corn, a lot of depends on what the weather in June is doing. But this year, it was pretty decent. Well, we did have some really higher than normal temperatures in, I'd say, middle of July. I mean, it's July in South Alabama. It's hot, but it was a little abnormally hot this year. But now, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of rainfall in the area. And I know it can be scattered, but, so there's folks may have 6 inches of rain in the last 4 days, and the neighbor down the road may have only had 2. But that has kind of helped with temperatures, but it kind of is a hindrance if it stays overcast and cloudy all day too. Sure. A lot of our crops need a lot of sunshine, right? So that's going to affect the crop when it comes harvest season. But for the most part, I don't think we've been weather-wise in a situation where we've just been in dire straits. Sure.
Yeah, and we've had this area. I can't speak for the whole state, but it seems like this area has had a pretty decent, consistent rain. in the world of row crops, you don't want all the rain at one time. You can look at an average for a month or an average for a year, and you can say, hey, the average looks pretty good, but averages can be misleading sometimes. You could have 6 inches the first week of July and then nothing the rest of the month, and the average looks good, but it's not just about the average. You also want it spread out.
That's right.
And I know, actually, just last week I was talking with one of our specialists, and he travels the state looking at peanuts, and he said overall the rain's been decent. He said, like you just said, some areas have been a little more wet, some a little more dry. But in this wiregrass area, it seems to have been okay so far. And of course, we're not over. It's not over.
That's right.
We're middle of August, and we still got September to go. And you never know with weather patterns and storms what's coming next. But so far up to this point, I guess we could say it's been decent.
Yeah, if we could get 2 more fairly good weeks of rainfall, that'll get us through August, and then, like I said earlier, the water requirements are going to start falling off as we get into September. And for our area, October is historically the driest month of the year, and that's why we grow the crops that we grow here, because it's harvest season at that point. So we'll probably start seeing folks looking at trying to plow up some really early peanuts maybe in the next couple of weeks, possibly. So, harvest season's right around the corner for us. Growing season's been pretty good. Insect pressure has not been too terribly bad this year for our cotton growers or our peanut guys either. Disease pressure the conditions have been right on diseases on peanuts, but fortunately our folks, for the most part, we've been able to kind of get into the field and make applications of the different fungicides that we've got available to try to help reduce the incidences of leaf spot and white mold. But we're not out of the woods yet, but right now it's looking like we've got a pretty decent crop started, and we're, as my granddaddy used to say, we're kind of getting close to the short rows here. For those who may be listening and don't understand, typically in a field, when you get to the end of the field, the rows may get a little shorter. So that's kind of how you know when you're getting close to being done with something, with a task or something. So
sure.
When you get down in the short rows there. But we're not too far from it. All of our cotton that was planted, around the 1st of May, end of April, it's not completely finished yet, but it's getting really close. Have started seeing a little boll rot show up in the bottom part of the crop, which with the amount of rain we've had the last couple of weeks, that's to be expected. Have noticed a lot of squares being shed in the top part of the plant in the last couple of weeks, just because of the overcast days that we've seen and the rain we've seen. Up until that point, a lot of people who were looking at the crop, they all kind of had the same thought that the retention of the bolls and the squares this year was really good, up until we started seeing these, 4 days straight of rainfall. Right. Peanuts, they look like they're in pretty decent shape as well. We've got a huge number of acres of peanuts planted this year. So everybody, and not only is the grower themselves affected, but you take the infrastructure for harvest season. So if we got a record number of acres, those folks at the peanut buying points, I'm not going to say they're going to be overworked, but they're going to have their work cut out for them this fall, as far as being able to get those peanuts to the mill, to get them graded or get them dried and graded and get them unloaded so those wagons can go back out to the field to harvest more. Sure. And get them moved into the warehouse for storage. So it's right now, I think everyone's pretty optimistic about the crop. Corn harvest is underway. Some people may be finished harvesting corn, but for the most part, that's underway. But we'll see. We've got a good thing going right now.
That's good. So, and I'm going to explain kind of for those listening, if you're not completely familiar with the Alabama Cooperative Extension System, extension agents often take calls in their area of expertise as from our local growers, and we have extension agents in row crops, forestry, wildlife, natural resources, home grounds, commercial horticulture, animal sciences. So a lot of our growers rely on some extension agents for information. So in your line of work with row crops, people call asking for advice. They ask for some insights. They ask, it could be anything that's on their mind. Have you seen any certain topic? Is there like one question that's been coming across, or has it kind of been general all over the place this year? Is there any certain topic that you've received or people keep calling you and asking about?
Well, it depends a lot on what time of the growing season it is. Like early on, a lot of questions about what varieties, perform best in our area, seeding rates, do we need to have any kind of at-planting insecticide, anything like that, things like that. Early in the growing season, you get a lot of herbicide questions. Okay, in for our area, pigweed is the Palmer amaranth is the big one we're trying to shoot for, and then it kind of transitions into, well, we did a pretty good job with that. We've got a few escapes. What can we do for those? And then here recently, we starting to see a lot of questions on like, all right, what do we do? If we've gotten behind on our leaf spot control or our white mold control. There's one thing, Dr. Scott Graham, who's the extension entomologist for peanuts and cotton. We went last week and looked at a field down in the edge of Florida. Yep. With this new pest that came through Puerto Rico in 2023, and it came into Florida in 2024. Well, this pest is called a jacid, or a cotton leaf hopper, I believe is another name for it. Mm-hmm. It's right here at our doorstep at this point.
Moving fast, too.
It's moving pretty fast. They actually went down Friday after the field day up in Headland and put in a trial on this farm, and we're going back tomorrow I'm going with them tomorrow to try to rate the efficacy of some of the products that were used to try to control this particular insect. Now, it was pretty devastating in this particular field. One thing we might have going for us right now is that we're getting pretty far along in the growing season. So, the damage that can be inflicted by this insect may not be as great right now, but we've seen this insect come from Puerto Rico to middle of Florida to now. It's right here at the state line.
It's gone up the East Coast a little bit. I remember Dr. Graham Friday saying there's some up in the Carolinas.
Up in the South Carolina, exactly. Yeah. South Georgia, middle Georgia, on up in the Carolinas. So,
and this particular pest it's just, you and I talked about this the other day. I think you mentioned it's carried more by weather systems, that they're not good flyers. Is that what you said?
That's what Dr. Graham has said is, when you walk through the field, they will fly a little bit, but they don't want to fly very far. And that was one thing he kind of alluded to, was they feel like when they first saw it in Georgia, it was somewhere after the 4th of July. They feel like a system had come through and sort of brought some up out of Florida.
Yeah, so
that way.
So travelability, migratory, kind of questionable on how they're moving and how quick.
But now we'll say that the individual that first kind of let us know about this particular field had looked at it on a Friday, and they didn't see any signs or symptoms of it on Friday, and they had come back on Tuesday or Wednesday of the next week, and they were just bumfuzzled as to what was going on out there. So,
always something, it seems like.
Well, that's one thing we kind of mentioned in the field that day, is we were kind of waiting for a year where we don't learn anything.
Sure.
That was kind of the talk that day. Is no 2 years are ever the same, and it seems like we always learn something every year, and just kind of ready for kind of a year that you can kind of take off a little bit, just traditional, not have to learn anything that year. So
and that's the importance of walking and scouting your fields.
Exactly.
Keeping an eye on it, you never know. Things may look great, good rain, good temperatures, good soil, and then all of a sudden you got this pest out of Puerto Rico.
Or actually, it originated in India, and it showed up in Puerto Rico in 2023.
So when you go, as y'all are keeping an eye on this, and you're trying this treatment, where can someone go to see how it's working, or is that something that would go through Scott Dr. Graham?
Yes, he will, because he's doing it in conjunction with the extension folks at University of Georgia and at Clemson, which is also the land grant university, and at University of Florida. So they'll have more information on that. We've got a little Facebook page. We try to keep folks up to date on things going on in the wiregrass as far as agronomic row crops go. But right now it's kind of, and if we said anything, said, yes, this controls this insect, we're looking at just such little data. There's, it's difficult to say conclusively that this will work at this rate, just with 1 year, or just with just kind of throwing a trial out there in the middle of the field. But it's one of those things where, we feel like this would be, the best for this situation, but in kind of times like that, I'm not saying we're spitballing things, but we're trying to get an educated spitball. How about that?
Makes sense. So if it's something new, you're starting from scratch, really.
That's right.
And it's, maybe the guys over in Georgia and the Carolinas, we're all communicating and collaborating, and that's one of the, I think people overlook in agriculture, is the collaboration between different universities and different farmers. And when we're trying to solve problems, everybody's trying to solve a problem.
That's right.
It's not a we all want everybody to do well, and if there's a pest and somebody finds a solution, we need to know. And that's that's the world of ag we live in. It's a hard working clientele, but at the same time they care about each other. And if someone has a problem and has figured it out, they'd like to hear about it.
Well, and the thing is, agriculture is a huge economic sector, but when you really drill down and get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it all is tied and it runs off the back of the grower. Whether that's a livestock grower, fruit and vegetable grower, everyone is depending on the grower to produce something. In this whole economic system. And I think that's one reason there's a lot of collaboration, between private industry, your universities, your land grants, things like that, is because everyone in this segment of the economy needs the grower to be successful. Because if the grower's successful, then everyone else in those supporting industries can be successful as well. Without the grower, the whole thing just kind of falls apart.
Sure. So many jobs and so many lifestyles and livelihoods depend on producers.
Yeah.
And that's glad to live in an area where people recognize that, and glad to live in a community and towns and the counties where people are appreciative of that. Is this area of the state's pretty significant with our farmers and with our extension offices and our research stations, and a lot of people working together to help these guys out and help these men and women out with their products and trying to get them to a good yield and a good
product for the consumer.
Good product for the consumer, correct. All right. Well, so what do you think so far? I think we had a good talk.
Yeah, we've covered a large spectrum here,
from Christmas trees to Jasons to,
we haven't delved off in the football yet.
No, we haven't.
And that's right around the corner.
It is starting off. I mean, it's it's agriculture and football around here, and ag and football and boiled peanuts and sweet tea, and that's pretty much life right now.
It's not hunting season yet.
No, but I think it'd be a good idea to have a wildlife person on the podcast.
I think so.
See what's going on in wildlife. And, but yeah, football right here, right around the corner. High school kicking off this week.
Thursday night.
I think so. Thursday night. I know there's some games on Thursday nights, and and throw in. College starts this weekend. It's not a full college slate, but I think they got some games.
There's some top 25 games on.
Yeah, just a little college football teaser Saturday, and a lot going on. So just I'll
have to come off my checkbook and resubscribe to a streaming service.
And we do something. our pod blast schedule's coming up.
Yes.
So that, to me, that's almost becomes synonymous with fall. You know, September, Aaron and I spend a lot of time, and the research station guys, they spend a lot of time pod blasting peanuts, and to me, that's just, I don't know, it's like peanuts and football and warm fall, and, you know, it's just, that's life for the next couple of months.
It is, and I don't know, not to look way far ahead, but I've always kind of looked at if you ever make it to peanut season, then it's like the year's practically over at that point, because you get through peanut season, well, then it's the peanut festival time, and everybody likes going to the fair unless you're un-American. For the longest time, my dad wouldn't go. I think he got sick when he was in school when it was on one of the rides or something. I don't know, but he had a bitter taste in his mouth for that. But then it's peanut festival time, and then you kind of almost just rolling into Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas, and before you know it, it's the end of the year.
You're pulling soil samples and checking soil temperature, getting ready to plant, getting your cover crops done, and that's where you are. I mean, it's kind of fitting that our first podcast is this time of year.
Yeah,
a lot going on.
But the pod blasting is something that we do offer for folks free of charge. And we'll have our schedule posted, and hopefully we can get that information over to the Alabama Peanut Producers Association so they can help us advertise for that. So for our Alabama guys, or even the guys in Georgia or Florida, I know the University of Georgia does a lot of pod blasting to help try to pinpoint when might be a good window to start plowing up a particular field, or just get started in general on harvesting the peanuts.
So without going too much in depth, basically for those of you that don't know, pod blasting is it's just a technique we use with a pressure washer and peanuts and metal baskets, so we can take the outside exocarp of the peanut off and look at the color of the shell and see, maybe kind of get a general idea if the peanuts are about ready to be turned over. And a lot of times the growers already kind of have an idea from the time they planted to when they are thinking. So it's just kind of almost validating what they're thinking already. And, if there's something there that they can look at to kind of judge when the peanuts are of optimum maturity. Yeah.
Just based on the physiology of the crop, not all the crop will become mature at the same time. Right. So you have to wait. You have to balance out waiting for the younger peanuts on the plant to mature versus can you hold on to the older peanuts on the plant, and figure out the economics of that. And that's kind of what researchers across the peanut belt they've already determined years ago. They figured out what's the best, and it's just something that we do for our folks to try to help them to be as economically prosperous as possible.
Man, what if we set up a pod blast station at a high school football game? Just farmers come to watch football, bring their peanuts to get aged, and I think we're on to something with that.
That may be that
would be ticket sales will go up for that game.
I'm sure
it needs to be a good Wiregrass matchup. It needs to be Headland-Dale County play Thursday. That'd be a good one.
That would be one.
Who's Rehoboth got
Ashford and Rehoboth.
That'd be the pod blast with the Wiregrass matchup.
Right there at halftime. We could do it at halftime on the 50. Forget the band, forget the cheerleaders. We're putting the pod blast machine right out there at the 50.
Or we could put the band around us. They could play. And
that would be awesome.
That'd be great.
We could have some good blasting music for the band.
I'll let you ask the schools for that one. We'll see.
I don't think my request is going to be favored, looked upon too favorably on that one. So
that'd be interesting though.
It would be.
We'll pilot it somewhere. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably about going to wrap us up for the first ever Wiregrass Grown podcast. The maiden voyage, the pilot. We appreciate Wiregrass Grown for allowing this platform. And we hope you've gotten something from it. And again, our extension offices, every county's got one. Call us with any questions and any line of producing you have. And I guess we will go ahead and wrap it up. And thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we're going to keep supporting local, keep swapping stories, and just keep on keeping on.
We'll see what comes across the the brains of ourselves next go round to talk about. So
It'll be, I'm sure we'll think of something.
we don't walk in here with an agenda, so it's just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and we'll see what kind of pants we have on next time.
Just collaboration.
Collaboration.
All right.